We are about to get this thing going this morning. So, y'all, look, I know that it has been a very interesting week. Everybody has been trying to figure out what's going on with the University of Louisville and the transfer cannon. They go out there, they make a big splash with the whole Flory Badunga and the Jackson Shellstad. They follow that up by adding, Carter Knox and Alvaro Figueres. We get the news that Adrian Johnson is going to be, London Johnson's going to continue to be a card as well. So, I know that there's been a lot of things happening, but things have definitely slowed down over the last week or so. That was expected by a lot of the powers that be. There's a lot of players that are currently making their decision between, am I going to the NBA? Am I coming back and getting the bag in college? So that's a part of it as well. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of moving parts right now. Louisville did get the commitment of Gabe Dines, the 7'5" center, transfer from Southern California. So we are going to get into that this morning. Definitely want to talk about that. What Gabe Dines is going to mean, what he brings, what I feel that means for the rest of the class. We're also going to get into where Louisville goes from here, the guys that, that it's sounding like that they're still in on, what needs to happen with the rest of the recruiting class. So there's still a lot to take in and a lot to talk about. So I don't know if Roman Kelly or Haven Harrington will be on with us this morning with so many things happening with Oaks Day and everything else. I knew it might be a light show, but I know there's a lot of basketball crazy people out there that want to talk Louisville hoops. They want to know what's happening. They want to know, the thoughts on what's needed, where we are. And I think that's kind of from, you guys know I'm big on social media, even though I did unfortunately have my Twitter account hacked. So, of course, any of you guys that can go out and give me a follow at Raashaan, I would be very appreciative as I'm still trying to build back my followers. I have been very active on social media. I've been very active listening to all the local shows, and people have been like freaking out. It's been a lot of freak outs about Louisville basketball, and it's very odd just because Louisville has far and away the number one recruiting class in the transfer portal. I will say, man, like 502 Circle, and all those guys over there that are a part of that, and just the University of Louisville athletic department as a whole, they have been kings of the portal since the transfer portal kind of really became a thing. We've seen them constantly be one of the best teams in the portal in college football. We've seen them bring in some elite transfer portal women's basketball players, and they continue to just hit it out of the park. I mean, a lot of people, even though Louisville overall didn't have as great of a expected season as they wanted to last year, like Coach Kelsey got into the portal and got whoever he wanted, and he really got the players that he targeted and focused on last year as well. But everybody who has something to do with 502 Circle, everybody who contributes to the 502 Circle, you guys are definitely appreciated. The NIL has never been an issue for Louisville. They've been able to go out there, and there's just been very few times where the folks that Louisville has targeted, they weren't able to get a hold to. I mean, even you just look at the portal haul that Coach Jeff Walls just brought in. I mean, when you talk about Karis Baker and you talk about the Thompson and the other young lady who joined, for Louisville basketball, on top of Louisville women's basketball, on top of being able to basically keep that whole core together. Like Louisville has, from the beginning, regardless of whether it was, college football, women's basketball, men's basketball, even baseball, they've continued to kind of step up and get everything and everybody that these coaches have wanted. So, just Dan Furman and all those guys over there, just give yourself a round of applause because it's been huge. But with that being said, even though Louisville has the number one recruiting class in the transfer portal, even though it seems like they are sitting in a good space, you would think, with being able to hold on to a guy that was brought in midseason that was expected to be, I don't know if I would say heir apparent to the point guard position, but a guy who was seen that was going to be able to help from the G League in London Johnson. They were able to keep, I would guess, the odds-on favorite for who you would want to have kept from the recruiting class in Adrian Woolley, or from the returning players. I would think Adrian Woolley would have been thought to be, most people's favorite to hold on to. So the fact that Louisville's been able to do that, they were able to bring in a guy who's going to be a preseason first-team All-American in Floyd Badunga. They brought in a all Big Ten level point guard in Jackson Shellstad. They were able to bring in a darling of the NCAA tournament, Alvaro Figueres, and they brought in just one of the most athletic wings in all of college basketball, in Carter Knox. With that being, with those being the guys out there, and those being the guys that were added, you would have thought that people would have been happy, and you would have thought that people would have been excited about what Louisville's doing in the transfer portal. And that really hasn't been well, I won't say that's not been the case, but people are still worried, saying that it's not good enough, and that they're really, really worried about where Louisville's at, and that Louisville really needs to add a couple of guys before we get this done. And we're going to kind of talk about who Louisville's in on and who they are targeting, who are the guys that they're looking at to kind of finish up this class. But before we do that, we got to talk about Gabe Dines. Gabe Dines is the most recent portal commitment. We talked a little bit about him last Saturday, as far as being a possibility of an ad, but we really didn't get into him. And I really did not know a ton about him outside of the fact that he's 7'5", and he played for Southern California, and didn't necessarily play a ton of minutes. But I'm gonna tell you what, I did some research into him. A lot of people don't necessarily know this, but Gabe Dines and our other commitment, Alvaro Figueres, actually played against each other in the Horizon League championship game a couple of years ago. So it was interesting. Once I found out that Gabe Dines, who was at Youngstown State at the time, had played against Alvaro Figueres, I thought that was even though I know a little bit more about Alvaro, just because Iowa was big in the tournament. They had the big win over Florida. Figueres hit the game-winning three against them. So, I watched Figueres play in the NCAA tournament. Well, I didn't really know anything, or didn't know much about Dines. So I thought that was a good way to kind of scout two future Louisville players. And, from what I noticed about the young man, the first thing about him, he's from Independence, Kentucky, so he's from the state. So he's coming back home. He was recruited by both Louisville and Kentucky. Watching him play, I watched him for Youngstown State. He did not play nearly as many minutes for USC as he did for Youngstown State. So I was thinking, okay, this dude is 7'5". He's going to be big. He's more than likely slow. I'm not really sure what, his shot block numbers are going to look like. I don't know, because he had some decent shot block numbers, but I just really didn't know what to expect from him, in terms of what how he would add value to Louisville, because a lot of people will just say, well, he's 7'5". People remember Mats Stockman. Mats was a guy who was 7'2", but, never really helped the Cardinals and never really had much value. And I was thinking, okay, is this dude another Mats, a dude that just, he's going to be on the roster, but he's not really going to be able to play well? I'm going to tell you all this right now. I fully believe that Gabe Dines, first of all, University of Louisville paid Gabe Dines to come here and play. This is not a young man that they guy that we're not going to see because, Motts was a guy that I wanted to see how he could help Louisville. I thought he actually had a decent low post game, and I thought he was going to be a guy that at some point was going to be able to give Louisville something. That, of course, ended up not happening, and Motts ended up transferring. Well, I'm telling you, Coach Kelsey paid this young man to come here and play. Now, he's not going to be a starter, per se, but I think he's going to play. And the thing that I noticed watching him for Youngstown State, it was very interesting because Youngstown did not start Gabe. But I'm just going to tell you, in the Horizon League championship game, in that Horizon game, you had Robert Morris, you had Youngstown State. Robert Morris was the 1 seed and the favorite. Gabe Dines and Youngstown State, they were the underdog. I believe they were the 4 seed in the tournament, but they had gotten a couple upsets. Gabe Dines played really, really well coming off the bench as a reserve. But the thing that I noticed about him, the things that kind of jumped off the page, first of all, even though he's listed, he's listed as, well, I believe by Youngstown and Southern California, I think he was listed at like 6'5", 215 pounds. So I was, when I looked at that, let's see, as this past year, USC had him listed, because I want to get it right. Gabe was listed at 7'5". They didn't give the weight on him, but I saw 214 pounds somewhere. I'm going to tell you right now, he's bigger than that. Okay, so a lot of people that said this dude is a string bean that is going to get pushed around and doesn't have any weight on him, that's not the case. Gabe Dines is actually pretty solidly built. I would say for a 7'5" guy, I'm going to guess that he's somewhere in the neighborhood of 230 to 240 pounds. He's not a big guy by any means, but he's not frail. Like, dude has decent size. It's not like a Perry Stevenson situation. If you remember Perry Stevenson for Kentucky, who was like 6'10", but weighed like 170 pounds, like just was an actual, just a stick figure. Gabe Dines actually has decent size on him, and I feel like, once he gets into the weight program with Eli Foy, I think that Eli will definitely continue to try to put some functional size and weight on him as much as you can on a 7'5" big man. You're never going to be huge, but Eli Foy does a great job of adding functional muscle and strength. And I think he'll do the same for Gabe. But, he's never going to be a guy. He's not going to be Zach Edey, right? He's not going to be a 300-pound behemoth that you can throw the ball to. But the thing I noticed about Gabe is, first of all, he's not skinny. He's not a guy who's going to get pushed around. He actually holds his position pretty well. But I'm going to tell you this. When Youngstown, he did not start, Robert Morris almost immediately got off to like a 12-0 start in the game. And when Gabe came in the game, everything turned around. The kid was defending, of course, at a high level. I noticed that he actually moves really well for a 7'5" guy. Like, one of the things about, big guys, like Motts, is that they kind of move like their feet hurt. They kind of lumber up and down the court. They don't necessarily move really well. Gabe actually moves, and his switch ability to kind of, help over on blocks and then recover to his man, because they tried, of course, because Alvaro Figueres shoots the ball so well. There are a lot of times where they tried to, set screens where they would have Gabe help and then try to kick back out to Alvaro, who was setting the screen and then fading to the corner. They were doing a lot of where they would, utilize Gabe in those screen plays, in those pick and rolls, to try to exploit his quickness getting the ball out. But Gabe actually did a very good job of helping over on the drivers and then recovering, closing out high hands, moving his feet well, closing with speed but under control to get back to Figueres at the three-point line. That was one of the things that actually stood out to me, is that for a 7'5" guy, the kid actually moves pretty well, which is something that I was wondering about was, is this dude just 7'5" and nothing else? And I'm going to say he's actually a pretty good athlete. How that's going to translate, for Louisville, and I'm not saying that this kid's going to come in and be, Manute Bowl or anything like that, but he is definitely a guy that can help. His functional quickness, his ability to close was very good. He actually moves really, really well for a guy his size. The other thing that I noticed that he is very, very adept at finishing around the basket. There were several times where in the pick and roll offensively, he was able to, of course, set the screen, roll to the basket, and dunk the ball. There were a couple times where they threw him lobs where he was able to take the contact, take the bump, and finish layup, soft off glass and finish. And he's a really good free throw shooter for a big guy, which is also another thing that was very interesting to me. I won't say a really good free throw shooter. He hit the free throws in the game I was watching. Overall, he has not been a great free throw shooter. Looks like he shot at Youngstown State about 45%, shot 35% in South Carolina. So I will not say that he's a good free throw shooter. Didn't really shoot many free throws, so I guess that would be a part of it. Looks like he only had 17 total free throw attempts at USC because he was only playing about 12 minutes a game. But even at Youngstown, he only shot a total of 67 free throws. So not a guy who had a lot of opportunity, but the stroke looked good. And in the Horizon League Championship, he hit, I want to say, 4 of his 5 free throws, and the stroke looked solid. So, not really much you can take out of his free throw shooting, but I do think that he is going to be he can be a force in the pick and roll game offensively. He looks like he's going to be good enough to be able to man the paint. I expect that he's going to come in and be your guy who comes in to spell Flory Badunga at the 5 spot, where Badunga is probably the best defensive player in college basketball. When he does have to sit down, he doesn't really get in a lot of foul trouble, so I expect that Flory is going to play about 30 minutes per game. But in those other 10 minutes that Gabe is on the floor, when you have a chance to go from the best defender in college basketball to a 7'5" guy that can really move, has great timing in terms of his block shots, and can give you a solid 8 to 10 minutes a game of at least, defense, but also offensively, he's a guy that you have to worry about. I love it. I love the addition. I think that, he's a guy who, in the role that I feel Vangelis Zugris basically played last year as your backup big, where Zugris was going to come in and give you kind of hustle and effort and try to rebound and just be a pest. I think Gabe Dines is going to be a rim protector that, at least in the pick and roll game offensively, you have to cover him going to the basket, because if you don't cover him going to the basket, that pick and roll threat is there. So when you have a big man that is a pick and roll threat, what basically happens is he comes, he sets that screen, rolls down the lane, that backside defender, wherever the big man is rolling, that backside defender has to come down to discourage the lob to the basket. So if that backside defender comes down to discourage the roll to the basket to keep the 7'5" guy from dunking it, what that means is opposite side corner, opposite side wing is going to be wide open. So Gabe Dines is going to give you value in 2 spots because, A, he's going to help you defensively when he's out there, and then offensively, even the threat of his pick and roll going to the basket is going to be able to open up some guys for some open shots from the perimeter in the pick and roll game. So, I love the ad. I think that it was a very smart ad. I think that when you look at some of the plus size players that were out there, there's a lot of guys that you could have gotten that were maybe, 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot, that were just kind of your run-of-the-mill kind of plotter guys that are just going to run up and down, and maybe they'll give you a little something. Gabe Dines is something that's a little bit different because he is a unicorn in terms of his size, quickness, combination. So you can at least have that. I'm not saying that he's going to be great. I'm not saying that he's going to come in and be an all conference defender or anything like that. But I like the dynamic that he gives you. So I think that this is kind of the update um, for him. We hadn't really done a focus. I had not done a breakdown 502 to kind of give you the thoughts on Gabe. So, I'm utilizing Wake Up 502 to kind of give you the deep dive into him. But I do think that it was a very intentional ad, and I think that he's a guy that is going to play minutes for Louisville. I would, like I said, I would expect for him to be in that 8 to 12 minute range per game, and I do think that he is going to be a very solid addition for the Cardinals. We do have a early message coming in via the YouTube stream. Damian James, 5934. Shout out to you checking in, asking, and I knew this was going to come up. Is there a Obeni update? Is today the day? So I know that everybody wants to know what's going on with Obina Akizi Jr., a young man that has been, he came in for a visit. We talked about that. We discussed the fact that he was coming in for that visit, the fact that Coach Kelsey was able to land a visit from a 5-star, one of the top players in the 2027 class, looking for the possibility of reclassifying. Definitely going to get into that. I appreciate that question, Damian. I'm going to get into Obina Akizi Jr. and what it's looking like. What's the latest as we head here for this Derby Day, and I'll give you my thoughts on that. And that's going to be coming up right on the other side of the break. So I tell you what we'll do is we'll go ahead, we'll break here. I'll continue to kind of talk about Gabe Dines, what this means for the team as a whole, and then Obina Akizi Jr., the update on him, any other guys that it's looking like Louisville may be targeting, and kind of what Louisville's going to need to finish off this recruiting class. How many guys that it looks like they're going to finish up with. So we're going to talk about that, much, much more. You are listening to Wake Up 502. Raashaan Myers is in the building this morning. Don't know if any of the other fellas will be in, but all my basketball crazy people, I wanted to be there for you. We'll be right back on the Big X. Can you hear me okay? Oh, there we go. I was like making sure it was working. Welcome back in. Wake Up 502. Raashaan Myers got intern James in the building now. Y'all, you folks on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you guys can see James's a pretty smiling face on there as well. We are back. Second segment of the show. Good morning, James. How you doing this morning, brother?
I'm blessed. Highly favored. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. Happy Derby Day, brother. Glad to have you in here. Like I said, I did not know who was going to be there. I know you sent me a message this morning asking if the show was going down. I was like, you know what? I want to get in there. I want to talk to the people. The people are going crazy. They want to know what's going on with Louisville basketball. But I appreciate you coming in this morning.
Of course.
Absolutely. And James brought up a good point to me, and something that I want to talk about before we get back into the Louisville transfer portal discussion. James said, talking about, the fact that TK, a.k.a. Taylor Kinney, and, of course, Tyron Stokes made his announcement, and how now both of those guys are going to be there at Kansas. And the fact that I'm going to tell you what, man, Stokes, James, is like, he's a demon. Like, I know that he's not playing for Louisville, but that kid did some elite level trolling of the Kentucky basketball program. Did you see his announcement on Inside the NBA?
No, I haven't. I've never seen specifics, but I always heard about.
Oh man,
rumors.
Like it was crazy, because I'm gonna tell you what. So Tyron Stokes goes to Inside the NBA, right? He made his announcement on Monday, and everybody made a big deal. Stokes is gonna make his decision. Stokes is gonna make a decision. Big Blue Nation was up in arms and thinking, okay, I think he's got, the coaching staff still thinks they have a chance, and I think they're going to get something done. And Stokes has, he's sitting on the desk. He's there with Charles Barkley and Shaq and EJ and Kenny, and they're talking, and he's talking about going through the process, this, that, and the third. So as he starts, he has a couple of boxes with him. He has a Panini box, and then he has another box with something in it. So he's trying to get it open, and Charles just makes Stokes is making the decision between Kentucky, Kansas, and Oregon. We're kind of his final three. Mm-hmm. So as he's opening it up, the box is like blue and white. So of course, whose colors blue and white are. So Chuck just makes the comment of, that's a lot of blue over there. Stokes looks over at Chuck and says, "Don't get your hopes up." So he opens up the box, and it's an NBA 2K box with him on the cover wearing a red and blue Kansas jersey, and says, "I'm going to Kansas." So, like, the fact that he was like, "Don't get your hopes up on that blue," he sounded like a dude from Louisville. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm definitely not going to Kentucky. But the reason why I give Stokes all the props in the world, James, is because the dude spent the last 2 weeks basically just giving Kentucky fans all the hope in the world. Like, he was like, I want to go. He went and did a visit to Lexington to go visit their new coach, Mo Williams. He had been seen at his tattoo shop getting a Louisville tattoo with 502 made on it, but also having a UK game on in the background. He was on Insta doing like the Cats cheer, like the CATS. Mm-hmm, yeah. So like he was doing a lot of like little things that were like trying to make it seem as if he was heading to Kentucky, just to kind of pull the rug out from under them at the last minute. Like, it was elite level trolling, bro. It was special. So the best two players from the state of Kentucky in a good long while, 2 McDonald's All-Americans in Tay Kenny and Tyron Stokes, are both going to be playing at Kansas. And you know what's the most interesting thing about that, Jay?
What's the most interesting about that?
Both Louisville and Kentucky will play Kansas this year. So Louisville and Kentucky will get to face off against those two young men. Louisville and Kansas will face off in the very first exhibition game of the year in mid-October in Kansas, in Lawrence. I actually am going to try to get out to that game. I've never been to Lawrence to see a game. So I'm going to try to get out there to Lawrence to cover that game. And then Kentucky plays Kansas in the first big game of the year in the Champions Classic. So we'll see if Kentucky can get some revenge, but it was absolutely hilarious, man. Like, just quality. It's very quality. So I'm glad you brought that up because I have to give a bow to Tyron Stokes. Like, I know that it did not work out between him and the University of Louisville. Louisville decided to go in a different direction, and I can understand why. Stokes is a bit of a he's a character, and he has a personality, and he's a little much. He's definitely the definition of a kind of a prima donna superstar, and I think after the Michael Brown stuff this past year, I just don't think that Coach Kelsey wanted to ride that circus again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can where you're coming from.
So like I feel like that was one of the big reasons that he did not really want to go after Stokes, because Stokes is a guy that is a big personality. He's a guy that definitely wants to make it about him, and he's the number one player in the class. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. He's going to demand a lot of money, and he's going to be kind of, I don't want to say necessarily a distraction, but he's going to make sure that everybody knows that, it's Tyron's world and everybody else just living in it.
Just because you're number one doesn't mean you're going to stay like that. Doesn't mean you're going to perform the best in college.
No, that's fair. I mean, that's absolutely fair. And but Stokes is a great talent. Like, he's a great talent. I have every full belief that he's going to go to Kansas and he's going to play really well. But I think that him going there is the best for both parties, because
it was not the best fit for
him. Yes, I do. I think that he's going to fit there better. Kansas is going to give him the ball and let him go with it. It's going to be him and Kenny. Those two guys are going to run the show for Kansas. I wish them all the luck in the world with that. As we've seen over the last several years, I don't think freshmen move the needle in terms of winning championships anymore, even though you can have a guy like a Stephon Castle who can be a part of a championship team like he was at UConn a couple of years ago. So I'm not to say that freshmen don't have value, but I don't think you can win championships led by a freshman. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
I just don't think it's too much experience in college basketball now. Now that good players are staying 3 and 4 years now, you just don't, for freshmen usually just don't have what it takes. And even in this past season where you had one of the greatest freshman classes in the history of college basketball, none of those guys were able to, help get their team to a championship. Like it just does not happen. I mean, if Cam and Caden Boozer and Darren Peterson and Kingston Flemings and Darius Acuff and all those guys, Keaton Wagler, those guys couldn't get it done, then I think that proves that, the transfer portal, retaining veteran players, having older rosters is what gets it done. But that was definitely a great, great moment. I loved it. Like I said, the kid has the Courier Journal, Muhammad Ali, tattooed on his leg. It says 502 made. It's awesome. So I give all the props, and I look forward to Tyron Stokes coming back after his college career is done, coming and being a big part of the city of Louisville, a lot like Raashaan Rondo is, even though he didn't play for U of L, and I think he's going to be a great ambassador for the city moving forward. So good luck to him and everything, and I do hope that he has a very good year out at Kansas, except for when he plays Louisville. So good luck with that. But before the break, I was getting into the big man, the 7'5" big guy, Gabe Dines, and kind of where he fits with Louisville and his role and his scheme fit for the team. But I got the question in from James on the YouTube. He texted in on the live feed, asking the question about is the mic unmuted on the videos?
It's unmuted.
Okay, just want to make sure. Because I want Damon to hear this because he asked the question. He wanted to know, Obinna Kesey Jr., what's going on? What's the deal? What's happening? So, all right. So I'm going to give you all, without further ado, I'm going to give you, what I know, what I think, and what's going to happen. Okay, so Obinna Kesey Jr., 7'1", 220-pound freshman. He's a class of 2027 center. He's rated as the number 2 center in the class. number 6 overall player, has looked to and decided that he's going to look to reclassify to the class of 2026, which means he would be a freshman coming this fall to college basketball. University of Louisville has gotten him in for a visit. He also visited Arkansas. He's visited BYU. He's visited Maryland. He looked to be earlier in the week, James. It sounded like Louisville had the kid, was out of the blue, honestly. A lot of people were saying he was either going to go to Arkansas or BYU. I know that Aaron Torres, who's a college basketball insider, had put a video out, I want to say it was Tuesday night, that said that he felt like it was Arkansas and BYU, and, those were the two favorites. Now, you fast forward 24 hours, it flipped, and Louisville all of a sudden became the favorite. And it looked like Louisville was going to get this done, and it sounded like there was a commitment imminent. Didn't know exactly when it was going to come, but it sounded like within, the next day or two, it sounded like Obinna Ekezie was going to commit to Louisville. Well, it has not happened yet, James. So, of course, with people knowing that a kid who's that good, who's big, who's athletic, who's, can jump out the gym. Everything that you would expect from a 5-star big man. He runs the floor well, good hands. The thing, one of the things I like about him just from watching his tape, is that he knows he's a big man. Like sometimes you get big men out there that want to be the next Kevin Durant. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Hey, will you turn the volume up on your mic just a little bit, just because the people want to make sure they hear your voice. Yeah, there you go. Kick that. Thank you. But when you look at him, he's a guy who likes to post up. He wants to get the ball low, can go finish with his left hand. He can finish with his right hand. He likes to try to dunk everything, runs hard, rebounds hard, but he does not play out on the perimeter at all. He's a big man that knows his role, which I love. There's very few pure post big men that are super, super talented out there. So I love the fact that Coach Kelsey is going after him. And I love how he plays compared to the rest of the guys that are on the team. I think that he gives Louisville something that they don't really have right now, which is a true low post threat with the ball in his hands that also is a great shot blocker, great rim runner, great rebounder. So I love that. But I will say this. It still sounds like right now, Obinna Ekezie, it's still looking like it's pretty good for Louisville. I know that there's been a big push by Maryland, and it sounds like for me. I'm going to tell y'all this: if Obinna is going to become a Louisville Cardinal, in my personal opinion, it's going to happen this weekend. Like I feel like it's going to happen today, tomorrow. The Jody Demling and Cardinal Authority do a great job of it. Things have been kind of hot and cold, and they've kind of talked about it. But just from reading the tea leaves and just in my personal opinion, if Obinna Ekezie Jr. is going to be a Louisville Cardinal, he's going to commit this weekend. If the weekend goes and he does not commit to the University of Louisville, I think that he is probably going somewhere else. I think I'll give you my opinion. I have no sourcing to tell me one way or the other. I think he's going to end up committing. I do. It feels like it definitely is some situations where maybe in the background things are being pulled in one way or the other. But it could still go either way. I think it's definitely a 50-50 coin flip. But that being said, in my personal opinion, this is without any sort of knowledge of it specifically of what those specifics are. There's been a lot of conjecture on a lot of message boards, whether it be on Louisville message boards, whether it be on Arkansas message boards, whether it be on Maryland message boards. Of course, Obinna Ekezie Jr., his dad, Obinna Ekezie Sr., was a big man that played for Maryland in the late 90s. and also played in the NBA for the Atlanta Hawks and a few other teams. Maryland, it seems like, has made a big push for him to try to keep him. He's homegrown. They want to keep the homegrown talent there. It sounds like they are making a big push financially to make that happen. And hey, you can understand it. Like, if you have a big guy, your daddy's a legacy. If you want to go follow that legacy and the money's right, maybe you can do that. Louisville has always stated for the players that they really, really want, they won't get outbid. So I don't feel like money is an issue. I feel like Louisville's going to make the funds available for the players that they want, which that also means Obina Ekezie, as long as it's within reason. I don't think that they're going to overpay for a freshman. But that being said, I think that Obina Ekezie is the type of player that you're going to spend a little bit more on. Does that make sense? Like, he's a guy that you're going to want to keep if you can. But at the end of the day, home is home. So, if he does decide to go to Maryland and, kind of has a change of heart, I am, trying to keep up with everything that's happening with that. I am like everybody else, y'all. I'm pretty much refreshing and trying to see if there's been any,
It pretty much sounds how you said it. It looks like Arkansas, U of L, BYU, UK, Maryland, all the teams are looking out for him right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, anytime you're dealing with an elite big man, you're going to have competition for it. So, anytime, it's very different. The recruiting, it's very interesting because the recruiting for transfer portal players and the recruiting for high school players is completely different. And how they go about it, the timetables for getting that done, the amount of people involved. The thing that I've noticed as far as the differences between recruiting these elite freshmen and recruiting pretty much any of the transfer portal players. Transfer portal guys, it feels like they've already been through the recruiting process, so they're much more invested in the players. It seems like the player himself, with maybe some help from his agent. It's more like the agent is like, okay, here are the places that you can go, and I'm going to get you the best deal I can. So you just figure out what you want to do. But it seems like a very streamlined process. With high school players like Obina Ekezie Jr., you still have a lot of different people pulling you in different directions. You have what the kid wants to do. You have maybe what the father wants to do, what the mom wants to do, where the family thinks, what the agent thinks, what the uncles and cousins and, the hanger-on guys think. Like, it's very messy. Does that make sense, James? Like, with high school kids, it's still very messy. Like, everybody's pulling the kid in different directions. But once a guy has gone through and made his initial college decision and now he's just looking to transfer, usually those guys don't really want to hear all that. It's like, I've already been through this. I've already been to college. I understand what's important to me. I understand what I need to be successful. All I'm trying to do is find my next school and get to work. And that's kind of the way they work with it. But, with high school kids, it's still a bit of a three-ring circus, especially for high-level five-star players. And I understand it's a big decision. You're making that first big decision of your basketball career when in terms of going to college and what college you choose. So I don't fault Obina for it. And if he does decide to kind of make that move to Maryland, I can't hate on it. But Coach Kelsey has had such a great hit rate to where the guys that he wants, the guys that he focuses on, for the most part, he gets those guys. Like, there have been a few examples where he hasn't, a couple. But for the most part, Coach Kelsey closes. And I think that they're going to get this done. I would say just continue to refresh, stay on Twitter, stay on X, stay on all your social medias. But for the most part, Twitter is where you're going to get the best updates and the quickest updates. But I do think that if Obina Ekezie is going to be a card, it's going to happen this weekend. It just does not feel like, if this goes into next week, with the fact that they thought that this was going to get done, this week, I just don't see it happening if it happens next week. James, what you laughing about?
Nothing. Just the fact that you pointed that out.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's like
the way you said it was funny.
Well, like, you know what I mean? It's like if you if you ask a girl to the prom and she's like, I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do, but I'll tell you by Friday or Saturday if I'm gonna go with you. Like if she ain't told you nothing by Monday, James, guess what?
Yeah.
You know it ain't happening.
Anyways. But I think that between Obina and Gabe Dines, whoever they do land, that it'll really fix the size problem that U of L basketball has.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because like they've already got Gabe, right? You have the starters in Floyd Badunga, who is
got Gabe. I'm okay.
Yeah, no, they have Gabe, and that's why I'm saying that's why it's interesting because you have 6'10", 6'11", Floyd Badunga, right, as your starting center, first team All-American, best defensive player in college basketball. You have 6'10" Alvaro Folgueras, okay? You have the big man from Iowa. He played center at Iowa. He's going to probably play the 4 spot for Louisville, okay? So you have feasibly your 2 front court spots locked down. So you've already gotten a commitment from 7'5" Gabe Dines, but you're still recruiting 7'1", 220-pound Obina Ekezie Jr.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of size. So you're looking at it, and Louisville's making, by them going after, if that's their 4-man not trio, but I guess quartet. If that's their quartet of big players for the 4 and the 5 spot, Louisville's looking to get a lot bigger, in terms of size. I mean, you're going, like Javon Hadley was the big man, quote unquote, last year that played the 4, okay, at 6'5". Louisville has basically said that they're definitely not going to get outsized, like it's not going to happen again. So I do think that's a very interesting transition that they've made to go to kind of this jumbo lineup. And I think that there's definitely I can see a world where Louisville will play lineups where if Obina does commit, where you can have Obina in there at the 5, you can have Floyd Badunga slide over to the 4, and then you can even see Alvaro Folgueras playing at the 3.
I'm excited for that. And I see that they have a lot of guards too that they've locked down, but it's just I'm wondering if they do play when they have a bigger lineup on the floor, how it's going to work mobility wise, like on the fast break or getting back when other teams, Well,
that's interesting, and I think, and that's a good question because I've heard a lot of people say that, well, if you have, let's say you have Folgueras out there with Badunga and Ekezie, like how are you going to play that? Or even if it's Gabe Dines playing at the 5, can Folgueras guard a small forward? Can he guard a 3? And I'm like, honestly, I wouldn't think that Folgueras would guard the 3. I think Folgueras would stay at the 4, and I think Floyd Badunga is going to guard the wing because Floyd Badunga, even though he's 6'10", 6'11", can guard perimeter players with ease. I mean, there's a reason why he's the best defensive player in college basketball.
He's one of the more mobile, bigger guys.
Oh, he's probably the most mobile big man in college basketball. Like the dude can switch 1 through 5.
Okay.
So to me, if that does happen, I think that Folgueras stays at the 4. If you have Obina in there at the 5, he's going to stay at the 5. And I think you have Floyd Badunga play on the wing and guard the wing. I think now offensively, I think you would have Folgueras playing on the perimeter. Like I think that Folgueras has the ball handling and shooting ability to wing in that lineup, in that jumbo lineup. But I think that you would just allow Floyd to defend 3s and you would let Folgueras continue to defend 4s. And I think it could work. Like it's very interesting to see what Coach Kelsey is doing, putting this group together. Like the some of the things, Louisville's not going to get bullied this year. Louisville's not going to get beat on the boards this year. Louisville's not going to lose because they don't have rim protection or size inside. The things that lost them games against Duke the last couple of years, the things that's lost them games against Tennessee over the last couple of years, the thing that lost them their NCAA tournament games to both Creighton and Michigan State, it's not going to happen this year. Like Louisville has made a decision and a declaration that, damn it, we ain't getting beat down low no more. Like it's not going to happen. And I am excited for it. I am here for it. And I tell you what, let's go ahead. Let's get to the break. When we get back on the other side, I'm sure Jay Haas will probably be giving a call in this morning to check in. We're going to continue to talk about where Louisville needs to go from here. I definitely want to get into what things are looking like on the blue side of the street. Is Kentucky going to have a team, or they're going to have a team that's worth anything? Want to get into that. And then, of course, NBA playoffs. We have a ton of things happening with that. You are listening to Wake Up 502. Raashaan Myers, intern James, Big X Sports Radio, and we'll be back on the Big X.
Don't ride the white horse. White horse. Don't ride the white horse.
This is Kentuckiana's only locally owned sports talk. The Big X, AM 1450 and 90.
Wild Horses from the Rolling Stones coming back. We had the Lone Ranger theme to start the show, and then we did, of course, White Horse as well. So y'all feel you gotta have horse songs, ain't that right, James? You gotta have the horse. It's Derby Day, you know what I'm saying? So you got to keep them rolling. Appreciate it. But welcome back. Wake Up 502, hour number 2. James, let me know if Jay has hops on the line. I'm sure he'll be coming along any minute now. But of course, 502-414-1450. That is the Game Day Men's Health text line. Would love to hear from you. Your thoughts on Gabe Dines, your thoughts on Obinna Ekezie Jr., your thoughts on what Louisville needs to go from here. Like, I've heard a lot of people, James, like freaking out about this Louisville team saying, man, I know we got some guys, but I just don't think that we're going to be good enough unless we get this guy or that guy. Like, I've heard some people say that, like, if Louisville doesn't get Obinna Ekezie Jr., they're going to be terrible.
Well, people are never satisfied.
Yeah, like, I've heard, like, if we don't get Juke Harris, Juke Harris is the number 1 shooting guard currently in the transfer portal. If we don't get him, we're going to be terrible. Like, I've heard a lot of that. And I think that's a little much. It's honestly, like, what was the number 1 recruiting class in the portal? Like, how can you think that your team is going to be terrible when you have the best class in the transfer portal? You know what I mean?
Just looking up U of L new recruits, and you just see a stacked list of like a whole lot of guards and a few forwards and centers, and it's just.
I mean, it's crazy.
1 center in the class in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this. Look, is that I feel like Louisville fans, they want so badly to be good that we've gotten greedy. is what's happened. Is it? Now that we have a little bit of momentum, we want everybody. It's like, well, unless we get the number 1 shooting guard, the number 1 point guard, the number 1 center, the number 1 power forward, and then all their backups are the number 2 players at their position. If we don't have all those dudes, then we're not going to be good. It's like, okay. Like, other teams are recruiting too, people. It's like you have to have enough players. Louisville doesn't have infinite money. So, like, you can't just get every best player in the portal. And to me, when you look at who they have, Jackson Shellstad at point guard, you returned Adrian Woolley, who can be your starting man at the 2 guard. They added Deshane Montgomery, an absolute demon from Dayton who can play both guard spots. Very, very athletic. Likes to dunk on you. Great defender. Was in the top 10 in steals in the country last year. You have Carter Knox on the wing. Former McDonald's All-American. Brother played in the NBA. Has a professional pedigree. Just an absolute demon of an athlete at 6'7" on the wing. You have Alvaro Figueres, who had one of the best runs in the NCAA tournament last year. A big man who's 6'10", can step out, shoot the 3, can handle the ball, will dunk on you, and can pass it. And you have, I don't know, by the way, a first-team All-American in Floyd Badunga. It's pretty good, James. It's a pretty good start. Oh, by the way, you have a 6'4" point guard who came from the NBA G League, who sat out all last year in London Johnson as your backup point guard. Like, you have a lot of talent on this team. Like, I know people, and you have a 7'5" dude that blocks shots from Southern California as well. Like, what are we doing? It's like, it's a good team. Like, I know that team it's not finished and it's not perfect, but like I've said, like, people have said, oh, we have to have this guy, we have to have that guy. Like, from what I understand, Louisville is still looking for some big fish, and of course, Obinna Ekezie would be one of those big fish. So I feel like if Obinna commits to Louisville, to me, it sounds like they're going to go after one more really good player for the perimeter, on the wing or at guard. They're going to try to get one more guy. So, whether that's Juke Harris, which I know a lot of people have connected with Tennessee, whether it's Milan Momcilovic, who is the big man from Iowa State. He dropped into the transfer portal, but he's being recruited by everybody, whether it be Florida, who's had, a lot of people have talked about. I know Kentucky wants to try to get involved with him as well. But Milan, there's a possibility that Louisville could try to get in on him. But, like, I personally feel, I don't think you have to go out there and get a superstar. Like, if you can just get, like, if you find me, James, a dude that played at Cleveland State, or a guy that played at, Coastal Carolina, that just was a bucket getter at his level. You know what I mean? Like, maybe a dude that's, even a guy like from Kennesaw State, like Adrian Woolley was last year. To me, if you get a guard or a wing that was just an athlete or a scorer, a guy who could knock down jump shots, whatever his role was. I feel like a guy with everything that Louisville already has at the other positions. I don't think Louisville necessarily needs to have a star. Like, I feel like if you just get a guy who knows his role and plays his role well, I think you're fine. Because, like, Deshane Montgomery, he's going to be your kind of defensive stalwart off the bench. Like, I think between him and Adrian Willie, you have two really good defensive guys that can play at the 2 and at the 1 if needs be. Like, I feel like you have your two defenders. Carter Knox is an excellent defensive player at the 3 as well. So I feel like you have your perimeter defenders locked up already. So you need a scorer / a shooter. Like, if you want to go out there and get the best kind of like Rain Smith dude who is just a, dyed in the wool, maybe he's 6'2", maybe he's 6'3", but he is just a knockdown shooter. And he played at, American University, or he played at, some other mid-major. Maybe he played at Bellarmine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like you have to have a superstar. Like, you have enough really good players there already, like, that are your athletes and your size and your defensive players. I don't think you have to go after a star. I know it's nice to say, I want Momcilovic, or I want Juke Harris, or I want, whoever the best player is out there in the portal. I just don't think you have to do that. And I don't think that Louisville has the money to just go out there and just, buy everybody. Like, I know that they've made amends with Papa John, and Papa John is back in the house apparently, so Papa John's money is back in the house, but that doesn't mean that you can just go buy every player in the portal. Like, Kentucky has money too. Duke has money too. Everybody in the SEC has money too. So LSU still doesn't have a roster. I think, what's crazy, James? LSU has like one player on their roster right now. It is like May 2nd, and they have one player on their basketball team.
And you were asking about UK's if are they gonna have a team, and I was looking at their recruiting class, and 1 second, I gotta pull it back up.
I mean, look, UK has a nice roster. They have a okay group of dudes there. Malachi Moreno is back. Trent Noah is back. They added Zoom Diallo from Washington. They have Alex Wilkins, who came over as a transfer. They have, they have some solid guys there. They added a dude, Usman Njai, a 6'11" big man that all he wants to do is shoot like fadeaway threes for whatever reason. They added him. They have a nice, solid roster of players. They have some dude named Morton, who played at GRC. He's a local kid who came back, who played for one of the teams out on the West Coast, Washington State, I believe, Jerome Morton. So, like, they have players. Like, UK has players. And, people want to say after losing Tyron Stokes, the quote-unquote embarrassment of losing Tyron Stokes, what does that mean? Is Kentucky going to be bad? Let me tell y'all who Mark Pope is. Mark Pope is a very good coach. So, like, he's never going to be bad, James. He's never going to be bad. Do players essentially like him very much? It doesn't really seem like. It doesn't seem like he really connects with the best players out there. But he's still a good coach. So at the end of the day, I think that Kentucky is going to have a very strong team. I think that they're going to have a solid, they're going to win, 22, 23 games. If they're going to go to the NCAA tournament, they're going to win a game or two. And that's going to be it. And, like to me, Mark Pope is a guy that is good enough to win games, James, but he's never going to be a guy that wins a championship. Does that make sense?
No, I understand that completely.
Like, he's a really good coach, but I don't think it translates. I think he's like an Elite Eight at the top. Like, in his best year, I could see them making an Elite Eight. That's where I'm at. To me, I think that Pope is a really cool guy. I think he's a good guy. I just think that he just has issues connecting with these young players. I mean, he's from Utah. You know what I'm saying? He's a Mormon. Everybody knows that the Mormons are a little odd. You know, they're a little odd. They have some odd ways about them. And I think that some of those odd ways, Mark Pope is not necessarily, he's a little bit socially awkward when it comes to dealing with, not as a person, but just as far as dealing with high level basketball athletes. You know what I mean? Like, he'd be fine for like a youth pastor. You know what I'm saying? Like, getting together and you want to make a popsicle stick house. You know what I'm saying? Or do like, let's go and help in the community, and we're gonna go help. Like he's like that. He's like a youth pastor. You know what I'm saying? He's like a dude that is like kind of cool in his role, but you really wouldn't hang out with him otherwise. You know what I mean? You know what I'm James, you laughing at me. You know what I'm talking about, James. Yeah, I just know what you're saying. He's like that. And I feel like because he is that way, I feel like he's just, a lot of guys can't find that comfort level with them. And when you're talking about elite level basketball players, they have so many options and they have so many opportunities out there that, it's kind of one of those things where when guys have all those options, if you have the coach that's a little bit weird and a little bit odd, and you have these other guys that, are cool people, you can make your money either spot, I'm going to go with the coach that I'm a little bit more comfortable with. And that just makes sense,
You didn't want to build a popsicle stick house?
Exactly. Like, you're going on a visit with Mark Pope in Kentucky, and he's pulling out the popsicle sticks. I don't know if me as an elite basketball player, I want to make a popsicle stick house. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I just don't think that's as cool as you really are acting like this is really cool right now. It's just like, I feel like that's the thing with Mark Pope, and he's not a bad guy. And I'm not trying to make fun of him, but I just feel like he just has an issue connecting with a lot of these young players. So I don't think that it's anything crazy. I just think that for him, some of these players like a Rob Wright, like a Tyron Stokes, like Donnie Freeman, who ended up committing to St. John's, I just feel like he just does not always connect with a lot of these players. So he has to kind of go out there, and he's getting the second level of recruit. But that being said, Pope with the second level recruit is still good enough to be a Sweet 16 type coach. So that, I know Kentucky fans hate that, because Kentucky fans, of course, they don't measure success by Sweet 16s. Kentucky fans measure success by, are we getting to the Final Four? Are we winning championships? So Mark Pope is like the worst situation for them, because he's an alumni. He won a championship in Kentucky. He's much beloved by the fans, and he's going to win just enough not to get fired. That's like my personal.
That's a real common story nowadays, though. Like not just winning enough not to get fired.
Yeah. That's who he is. Like, Louisville was in that situation with Scott Satterfield. Like, Louisville fans hated Scott Satterfield for the most part, but he was always good enough to not get fired. So, until Cincinnati came and kind of bailed Louisville out by wanting to hire Scott, and they took him off of our hands, like, they were just never going to be satisfied with him. And I feel like that's where that's where Kentucky is kind of rolling towards with Pope. Because I think Pope is a good coach, and he'll always be good enough to not get fired. And how bad does it look if you fire a former alumni when he's winning games, he's going to tournament, and he's winning a couple games in the tournament, Yeah. Like, that's going to look bad. Like, what coach is going to want to take, come and take that job if you're going to fire one of your own 3 years after he goes to 3 straight tournaments and has multiple tournament wins?
Because, it sounds successful, I guess, on paper.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so he's had a level of success. So, like, what coach? Because I've heard Kentucky's fans say, "Look, Billy Donovan now has left the Chicago Bulls. So, like, let's go hire Billy Donovan." Do you think Billy Donovan's going to want to go into a situation where you've just fired, kind of sort of successful head coach that's from Kentucky, played at Kentucky, won a championship in Kentucky? Like, is he going to want to go and get into that situation?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to get in those shoes.
So that's why it's going to be very interesting to watch UK over, the next several months, because I do think that they'll field a good team. I think that they're not done yet either. Just like I said, Louisville's not done with their portal class. Kentucky's going to get another couple of pretty good players, and they're going to have a solid roster. They're not going to be as good as Louisville this year. I'm just going to be honest with you. Louisville's got way more talent than what Kentucky is. And all you Kentucky fans out there, I'm going to tell you this too. All you Kentucky fans that keep trying to compare UK's baloney, horrible, crappy $22 million roster from last year and comparing that crap to what Louisville did this year, you're out of your mind if you think that those two things are the same. When you paid, Otega Oweh to be your best player and you brought in a bunch of backups and scrubs like Jalen Lowe and the rest of these dudes, like, please, like, those two things are not the same. Like, freshman Malachi Marino, freshman Jasper Johnson, bringing in Otega Oweh, bringing over Cam Williams from Tulane. That's not the same as bringing in Floyd Badunga, Jackson Shellstad, and Carter Knox. Like, it's just not. Those dudes are Jordan Brand and McDonald's All-Americans coming over. Like, UK, those dudes were like White Castle All-Americans. I mean, I'm just saying. Like, it's not the same thing. So quit trying to compare rosters. Louisville's roster is better. You guys are just gonna have to deal with the fact that Louisville's better in basketball than Kentucky is now, and just be okay with it. James, do we have any text coming in at all, either on the YouTube or on the text line?
We have one that says, "Just say Raashaan Mark Pope can't relate to the black culture. He's like another Satterfield."
Well, Satterfield is a great comparison, and I think that a lot of players see Mark Pope as kind of a dweeb.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before that, we had Raashaan. I'm surprised that you're in the studio today since you all got the J Has Gala hookup.
Yeah. Well, everything was kind of crazy this year. There's a lot of people that got kind of upset about the fact that the Kentucky Oaks last night ran so late because it kind of screwed up the timing for a lot of the restaurants. It screwed up the timing for a lot of the parties and all that stuff. So we ended up not doing anything with the gala events last night. We, of course, still did the gala with Down Syndrome of Louisville and those good folks 2 weeks ago. But we actually did not do any of the events last night. So sadly, it feels like because of the decision to move the Oaks to so late in the evening, like a lot of those galas and parties start like the Unbridled Eve and all those things, they start at like 7 p.m., James. So if you have a gala that's starting at 7 p.m., dinner at 8, with entertainment starting at 9, but the Kentucky Oaks doesn't run until 8:45, guess what, James? Ain't nobody at the party. Ain't the red carpet where all the stars are supposed to be. You're supposed to be doing the red carpet from like 6:30 to 7:30. You know what I mean? Like, but everybody's still at the track. Right. So who are you interviewing? Like, I could have just walked down the red carpet and interviewed myself. But there's gonna have to be some things worked out with that. I don't know what's gonna happen. Churchill Downs controls so much of that now because of TV rules the world. So if TV says we did great numbers, running the Oaks at 8:45, if that's the case and they keep it there, the party scene's gonna possibly change some. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes moving forward. But I appreciate you talking about that. But was not there at the event last night just because of all of the timing of everything. It just did not seem to really work out. So hopefully we will be able to do something with that moving forward. But sadly, no interviews this year, people. So just stay tuned for that. Just continue to follow wakeup502.com. And me as well at Raashaan, RAASHAAN on X, for all the latest on there. So just continue to follow that. Any other messages or anything on the YouTubes?
I'm not sure if you read this. It came in at 9:53. It says, doesn't sound like Juke Harris is still in the fold for U of L. So who's another player staff might target? 2 under the radar guys I wouldn't mind seeing the staff pursue is Abdi Basir Jr. or Hamad Musa. We need shooters, and either one of these guys you can play at the 2 or 3.
So Juke Harris, and this Juke Harris is an interesting name. Great question. Thank you for that, texter. Juke Harris is a guy that I don't know why Louisville fans like. Juke Harris was a guy that Louisville was going to look out to try to find players, but Juke was never seen as Louisville as a favorite for Juke. Like. Louisville, has tried to kick the tires on Juke, but it sounded like they were never really a primary player for Juke. Like I feel like Juke is a guy that we definitely were like, hey, if you wanted to come this way, we'd love to have you, and we're going to pay you the same bag that we were going to give John Blackwell. We'll give you that bag. But it always felt like Juke was kind of a Tennessee lean.
Yeah.
And I think that he's still a Tennessee guy. It feels like.
What did it say? And so more recently, it was UK or something like that.
Juke, the UK has tried to get on everybody, but all the good players are like, yeah, thanks, but we don't like popsicle stick houses. So yeah, like for sure, Juke is a guy that Kentucky wanted to get in on. Juke is a guy that a lot of people like. There's a lot of players. North Carolina wanted to get in on him. Michigan wanted to get in on him for a while there. They thought that he was a done deal to Michigan, but it definitely does sound like Tennessee is more of the way that things are going right now. So we'll have to kind of wait and see about that. I don't think Louisville's going to be a destination for Juke. But like I said, it feels like Louisville's going to go get another perimeter guy. But as far as who that guy is going to be, they haven't really mentioned it yet. Like it feels like the next level of guy, like let's say after Obina makes his decision, whether it's yay or nay, I just don't think Louisville's going to go out there and grab another high level guard, like expensive guard. Like I think they're going to go. There's still a lot of really good players out there. Like a couple of those players that he mentioned, Musa and some of those other guys. Like there's a second level of recruit. Like there's the big bag recruit. Like Juke Harris is a big bag recruit. Okay, he's a guy who's going to be earning in that $2 to $3 million range. Okay, so. Next level guy is the maybe $1 to $1.5 million guy. And Louisville's going to start maybe looking for that level of guy. Or maybe even the $750,000 guy who's like maybe a super shooter from the mid-major level or a dude that shot 45, 46% from three from the low major level. A guy that can shoot, maybe is limited athletically, maybe doesn't have the size, but is a great shooter. That if you put him out here with all these big men and all this size and athleticism, all you got to do is stand out there and knock down the shot when we kick it to you. Kind of like a Steve Kerr or Klay Thompson or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that Louisville still has some moves to make, but don't expect for every guy that Louisville targets to be like a 5-star superstar. Like, I just don't think that's realistic. So that's what I would say. But I do think that they are going to go get a couple of more additions. I do think that they'll add. I would like to see them actually add one more point guard. Like I would like to see them add a true point guard. Like I know that London Johnson came here as a guy who could play the point and who was considered a quote unquote point guard that can also play off the ball at the two. So he's a bit more of a combo guard, a lot like Adrian Woolley, a lot like Deshane Montgomery. I would like to see Louisville get a true point guard. Somebody who is going to handle the ball, who's going to pass it, who can knock down an open jump shot. Maybe he's not that tall. Maybe he's 6'1", 6 foot, whatever, but he's a great ball handler. Just give me somebody like that who can handle the ball in a pinch, who is going to take care of it, who's not going to turn it over, and just kind of run the team. I would love to see Louisville add one of those. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I think that would be a great help. Other than that, I would like to see them add one more wing. I think that Adrian Woolley and Deshane Montgomery are both more two-guard type guys. They're 6'3", 6'4", type guys. Like, I love Carter Knox's size at 6'7". I would love to see another 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guy who's maybe not an offensive player. Maybe he's not a good shooter, but maybe he's just really athletic and can really defend. I think that would be really helpful to have off the bench as well. But it'll be very interesting. I think that once you see this last big piece or two come off this weekend, you'll start to see who Louisville rounds it out with. Like, I would love to see, I've always said, man, like, I would love to see Louisville add a couple of local kids that maybe were freshmen somewhere else at smaller schools, like a guy like a Kieran Tilley who played at Evangel Christian, or somebody like, I know maybe not Quelline House because he played really well. I think Quelron's going to get a nice bag from somewhere. So I think he may be a little bit too good to come here. But I'd love to see some of these local guys get kind of like those 11th, 12th, 13th spots on the roster, and Louisville can develop them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That they can wear the jersey, they can come in, they can practice. They've been, following Louisville for years. They're talented players. Like Tilly's a very talented player. He was really good at his level in college, his first couple of years. So to me, you bring in a guy like that to bring in at the bottom of the roster, maybe he develops into something that he can develop into a role player at Louisville. I think that would be awesome. But I'm going to really be watching to see what Coach Kelsey does with these last couple of spots. But I tell you what, James, let's go ahead. We're at the bottom of the 10 o'clock hour. Let's go ahead. Let's take our last commercial break. On the other side, I definitely want to get into the NBA playoffs. Some of the things that I've liked that I've seen, some of the things that I don't like. Where are the favorites looking like right now? We're going to get into that. We're going to take more of your texts. If you have any more, 502-414-1450. That is the Game Day Men's Health text line. Continue to hit us up on YouTube and Facebook. You are listening to Wake Up 502. Raashaan Myers, intern James, and we'll be back on the Big X. They were down 24 points last night, James. 24 points in the first half. They were down 22 points at halftime. Orlando Magic had the Pistons on the ropes. You know how many points the Orlando Magic scored in a 24-minute second half, James?
How many points did they score?
15 points. Not in a quarter, James. They scored 15 points in the second half. 19 points in the second half. They had an 11-point quarter, and they only scored 8 points in the fourth quarter. Detroit Pistons come back to win the game 93-79, and the Orlando Magic had one of the biggest choke jobs in the history of the NBA playoffs. Like, I was so glad to see the Pistons gone. The Pistons were the 1 seed in the West. They are the 1 seed in the West. I thought, I was looking at the game at halftime. Orlando was running away with it. I'm like, wow, this upset's going to happen. We're going to have the 8 seed knocking off the 1 seed. Once again, kind of having the shades of the Miami Heat and New York Knicks, excuse me. And to have this big upset, so the Cleveland Cavaliers, they could have a nice, easy road in the second round, have to take on an 8 seed, not have to worry about knocking off the 1 seed. Well, guess what happens? The Pistons come back and win. The Cleveland Cavaliers have a chance to win the game on the road in Toronto, knock off the Raptors, turn the ball over. The Cavaliers were up 1 with 11 seconds left, James. All they had to do was just hold on to the ball and just get fouled. If you get fouled, you go up 3 more than likely with about 5 or 6 seconds left. And Toronto is a horrid 3-point shooting team. And guess what the Cavaliers do? They turn the ball over for no good reason at all. Dennis Schroeder has the ball running around in the backcourt. For some reason, jumps in the air and just throws the ball. It ends up in a turnover. The Raptors get the ball back, and they bounced in a 3 from the top of the key. Like, just absolute ridiculousness. I'm so annoyed. Cleveland ends up having to go to a Game 7 back home in Cleveland, which will happen tomorrow. It'll happen Sunday afternoon. So Cleveland is playing a Game 7. The Detroit Pistons have new life, and they're going back home. So what I did not want to see happen, it looks like both Detroit may win, and Cleveland, you know what? They could lose a Game 7 at home. So Donovan Mitchell and crew, they have me a little nervous. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I'm very interested. I do think that Cleveland will get it done. Cleveland played a good game. All points in case. That was the best game that they had played on the road versus Toronto. I thought that James Harden was just okay, but I think Evan Mobley has really, really started to play well. Jared Allen still kind of sucks in the playoffs. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. He's still underwhelming, but Donovan's Donovan. He's going to do his thing. Evan Mobley is getting better, and James Harden was all right. So we'll see what happens. I'll be paying close attention to both of those games. Congratulations to old man LeBron James, the Lakers. I know Roman's going to be very happy with this. The Lakers had a pretty easy 20-point win on the road in Houston to knock off the Rockets, win that series 4-2. They were able to get that done. Tonight we have our first Game 7 of the NBA playoffs with the Celtics and the Sixers. The Philadelphia 76ers, I give them all the credit in the world. Joel Embiid was coming back from some sort of illness, but he had only been back. I think he's only been back. This was his 3rd game back, coming back from this illness. Has played like a man possessed. Dude is balling. And some kind of way, the Celtics have been seen as the favorite in the East pretty much since Jason Tatum came back from his injury. Since he came back from the Achilles, Jason Tatum, the Celtics have been the betting favorite in the East. So the fact that the Philadelphia 76ers, with not having Joel Embiid for a good little part of this, the fact that they have this to a Game 7 and they have a chance for a win in Boston, they've already beaten Boston in Boston twice in this series. So more than likely, I would expect that the Celtics get this thing done in Game 7. But with if Joel Embiid can play the way he did in Game 6, there's going to be a chance that the Sixers could get this thing done. which would be a humongous. I think that would be a bigger upset. I honestly think that the Sixers beating the Celtics, even though the Celtics are the 2 seed, would be a bigger upset than Orlando knocking off Detroit. I actually thought that Orlando-Detroit series was going to be pretty close because both teams were so similar. Neither team, great offensive team, both very good defensive teams. So it kind of came down to who was going to be able to hit enough threes to win. But with this Celtics-Sixers series, I did not think the Sixers would be able to play with the Celtics at all. So the fact that they are right there and have a chance to get this win, I'll be paying attention to that. That tips off 7:30 tonight on NBC and Peacock. So definitely take a look at that. On the western side of the conference, of the NBA playoffs, both the Thunder and the Spurs have moved on, so congratulations to them. Of course, we know that the Lakers have moved on as well. The Lakers will take on the Thunder, and you'll have the Minnesota Timberwolves, who knocked off the Denver Nuggets, taking on the San Antonio Spurs. I love everything about the San Antonio Spurs. They have been disrespected. Our own Roman Kelly, who is hiding from me, he's not been answering my phone calls. I've been talking about it. He's been disrespecting the Spurs since before the playoffs began. I heard him and Mike Rutherford talking about the playoffs, and Mike said, who he thought the teams were in the West and who in the East were going to be the best teams. Roman said in the East, he thought it was going to be the Boston Celtics. He said the Celtics and the Pistons. He didn't think anybody else was really any good. I thought that was disrespectful to Cleveland, though I get it. Cleveland has had a tendency to choke. And he said in the West, I think it's going to be the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, but I think the Thunder are the best team. He didn't even mention the Spurs, James. The Spurs had the second best record in the NBA. They won the season series versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have the alien that is Victor Wembanyama. And literally nobody wants to give the Spurs any credit. I listened to national people. I listened to Roman Kelly. Nobody wants to believe in the San Antonio Spurs. And I personally have said, I thought the Spurs were the best team in the West, and they could literally win a championship this year. And everybody rolls their eyes at me. Everybody says the Spurs are too young. But I'm here to tell you, man.
The Spurs are not too young because a young OKC team won a championship.
Exactly. Like, the Spurs are ridiculous. It's like, do you see what Victor Wembanyama's doing? Like, and it's not just Victor Wembanyama. I mean, you look at the fact Victor was out with a concussion in Game 4. Okay, he didn't play. He was out it was Game 3. Excuse me, that he missed because he had the concussion. He got hurt in Game 1, so he fell down, hit his head. The Spurs won the game, but he missed Game 2. The Blazers had the game of their life and found a way. Scoot Henderson had the game of his life, and they win Game 2 to tie the series at 1-1, and everybody's like, oh my goodness, are the Spurs going to lose in the first game? Is this young team going to choke and all this other crap? So they go into Game 3. Victor Wembanyama has announced that he's not going to play, okay? The Spurs went out there and dog-walked the Blazers in Portland by like 20.
Yeah, because it's not just Victor Wembanyama because he's an offensive and defensive threat.
Yes.
They got on defense. They got Carter Bryant, who's also like helping and
being
the secondary defender with Wemby, and then they got
Stephon Castle.
They got veterans. They got Harrison Barnes, Bismack Biyombo, Stephon Castle, Julian Champagne, De'Aaron Fox. They have Kelly Olynyk, and they have a whole bunch of other guys. Luke Cornett, Keldon Johnson. So it's just
they have a squad, James. They have a squad, like you said. Like they are more than just Victor. Like Victor Wembanyama is an alien and is trending towards being the best player in the NBA.
Rookie Dylan Harper.
But yes, they have hoopers. They have a squad. Dylan Harper is a demon. Stephon Castle is an absolute dog. Like you talked about, Carter Bryant has come out of nowhere and has now become one of the better two-way players in the playoffs.
Wasn't he in the dunk contest?
Yeah. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is a baller. Like, De'Aaron Fox was a great player with a crappy team with the Sacramento Kings for years. And now he has an opportunity to actually be on a good team in the playoffs, and he's killing it. You have Harrison Barnes, who has championship pedigree. He's won with the Warriors. He's won all over the place. So, you have him, add him to the mix as well. Julian Champagne's one of the best three-point shooters, maybe the best three-point shooter left in the NBA playoffs. You have a really good team. And I just always felt as if the Spurs have not been given nearly the credit. Like, I understand that everybody loves SGA. Everybody loves Shea. Or I don't want to say everybody loves Shea, but everybody respects the Thunder and the fact that the way they play, the fact that they're so physical defensively, and you have, Shea, the foul merchant, Gilgeous-Alexander, who can just find a way to just draw foul after foul and get to the free throw line and frustrate the hell out of almost every team they play. But I'm here to tell you, the Spurs are like the worst matchup possible for, what the Thunder try to do.
My homeboy is a Thunder fan.
Oh, is he?
So I understand. I understand everything you're saying right now, and we have these conversations all the time. And it's always say this, say that, and then it's not just say they have other players. And what I'm saying, I respect OKC. They're a great team. What I'm saying, they're a young team too. But I feel like a lot of people disrespect them at the same time. But I feel like a lot of people understand that they are good, and that's why they hate on them too. And you can't just say that. But you gotta know the fact that I think the Spurs are 3-0 against them.
Yeah. Well, they're 3-1. They lost one. They lost one time to them this year. But the thing is, not only were they 3-1 in the regular season, they blew them out 3 times.
Yeah,
they blew them out 3 times. So the Spurs have played really well, and that was going to be what I was going to say. If for whatever, I don't want to say for whatever reason, the Spurs are really bad matchup for the Thunder, because what the Thunder try to do, the Thunder have a lot of guys. They're like a much better version of the Toronto Raptors. And the reason I say that is that the Toronto Raptors have like all small forwards on their team. Like you have all these dudes that are like 6'7" to 6'9" that are all really athletic, all really good defensive players, and they're just very physical. Now, the difference between the Raptors and the Thunder are that the Thunder, have much better shooting. They shoot the ball like the Raptors can't shoot at all, which is the Raptors' big issue. But the Thunder have great shooting, and they have Shea. And Shea's ability to make tough shots and his ability to get fouled and consistently generate points, they're just a great, the Raptors average only about 102, 103 points per game, where the Thunder average like 125 points per game. Like they're a offensive juggernaut to go along with being just such a physical, big, long defensive team. But the reason that the Spurs are a horrible matchup is the Spurs are even bigger than the Thunder, but the Spurs can handle it. Like Stephon Castle is a 6'9" point guard. Like he's big. All that bully ball crap that the Thunder try to do with being super physical, Stephon Castle doesn't care about that. Like he's bigger than they are. Victor Wembanyama, big, long, tall, physical. Harrison Barnes, big, long, tall, physical. De'Aaron Fox, you try to, get physical with him. He's so quick. That doesn't really bother him. So the Spurs have all of the big physical handlers and passers to where what the Thunder try to do defensively doesn't really bother the Spurs. And on the other end, the Spurs are just as good defensively, but because they're bigger, a lot of what Shea tries to do, like you put Stephon Castle on Shea has a lot of trouble scoring over him. You can put, a 6'9" Carter Bryant on him as well. You can be physical. Dylan Harper is 6'6" as a point guard. Another big physical body with long arms. Like, they have so much size. It is a terrible matchup for the Thunder. So when people just try to act like the Thunder are just going to walk in there and embarrass the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals, if that ends up being what, it should be, because I don't think that the Lakers can hang with the Thunder, and I don't think the T-Wolves, especially with Edwards going down. With Anthony Edwards going down with the injury, I commend them for beating the Nuggets without Anthony Edwards or Dante DiVincenzo, but they're not going to beat the Spurs without Ant-Man. So with them not having Ant-Man, with the Lakers just being old and LeBron being 1,000 years old, plus Luka's hurt.
Think of the storyline though.
It would be a great storyline
if LeBron did that. And LeBron is not 1,000 years old. I mean, it's 41. I mean, it's 41. Thank you.
I mean, that's fair, but they don't have Luka. And Austin Reeves is coming off of his little ankle injury or whatever. I just don't.
Don't write them off. That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, yeah. If I would love to see LeBron pull a rabbit out of his hat and beat the Thunder. I think that there's a better chance that the Thunder get a sweep than the Lakers win more than a game in that series. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Okay.
Like the Lakers really struggle to score. That's why I am very surprised. I am shocked at the Houston Rockets. The fact that the Lakers pretty much dominated that series as much as they did. The Houston Rockets should be ashamed of themselves, James.
KD didn't play.
KD was hurt. He was banged up. But even without KD.
All right.
KD was banged, but they should have been better than that. Like the Houston Rockets, all I've heard all year is that the Houston Rockets wait till they get into the playoffs. That they have everything that you need to give. People thought that the Rockets were going to sweep the Lakers because Luka wasn't playing. That's what I heard. They said that the Rockets were going to sweep them. They said no Austin Reeves, no Luka Doncic. The Houston Rockets are going to likely sweep the Lakers. And not only did they not sweep the Lakers, they really didn't even contend. I mean, and maybe it's because sucky old Reed Sheppard is playing at point guard. Like, I know Reed Sheppard is not that great of a basketball. Sorry, Kentucky fans. I'm sorry. Reed Sheppard is not like that.
Okay. And
Alpha Şengün is terrible.
I just want to say this about Reed Sheppard. When that man dropped, what was it? It was 40 to 60 points on Manual my freshman year. Yeah. He was that good at basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I give him credit. If he was playing against a bunch of Kentucky high school players, yes. Kentucky that he would be fine. But in the NBA,
okay.
It's a different level. And Reed Sheppard, a lot of Kentucky fans got mad because I said at his best, because when Reed and Rob Dillingham came out of Kentucky, I said that I did not understand why both of those guys were looked at as lottery picks. When they talked about the Rockets taking Reed Sheppard with the 3rd pick in the draft, I was like, they are smoking something, because I just don't think Reed Sheppard has the size or the athletic ability to be an impact player. I said at the best, his best case scenario was that he could become as good as Austin Reeves. I don't even know if he can become as good as Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is a baller for the Lakers. Like, he is a really good player now. I never thought that Austin Reeves was going to become that good of a player. I give him all the credit in the world for that. But yeah, I just don't see it with Reed Sheppard. Like, to me, he's like Steve Kerr. He's something like that. Just a dude that he can knock down a 3-point shot. He's a better athlete than you would give him credit for, but he's not really a true point guard. He got picked by LeBron James. He got picked by a 75-year-old man who plays power, who's 6'9", 270 pounds playing power forward. You got the ball stolen by LeBron James.
It's LeBron.
I mean, bro, he's an old man.
Oh, we're not getting into this.
He's an old man. You got your pocket picked by old man. I'm not sold on Reed Sheppard. The Houston Rockets were way overrated, and good riddance to them. I am done with them. Alfred Şengün is the worst, quote unquote, good big man I've ever seen in my life. I used to think, Nikola Jokic was the most overrated dude. People think Şengün is good. Şengün is crap. Dude is terrible.
Okay.
Oh gosh, don't get me started. But
I give you that way.
I am super excited to see what happens. I really, really hope that the Sixers can find a way to get this done. I am saying all this because I selfishly want to see Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers find a way to, get to an Eastern Conference Finals, maybe sneak into an NBA Finals. Let's get Donovan Mitchell to an NBA Finals, y'all. Like, we gotta see that happen. If it doesn't happen this year, I feel like if they lose in this round, or if they lose in the second round to the Pistons or the Magic, Donovan Mitchell, from what I heard, is probably going to request a trade. So we'll see what happens with that. But thanks, everybody, good luck to Emerging Market, the Romans' favorite heading into the Derby. Intern James, I definitely appreciate you coming in on this Derby day, man. I appreciate you staying up with me. Thanks for everybody who got in on the text, who's listening online on X and Facebook. This is Raashaan Myers for Intern James. This is Wake Up 502, and we'll be back next week.